Next up, it's time for a look at the top business stories of the day. And for that, Kate Moody joins us here in the studio. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Charlie.
We're starting in the U.S. The Biden administration has gotten its big COVID stimulus package passed. And so next up, it's focused on infrastructure.
Yeah, it's another one of those legislative priorities that were outlined back on the campaign trail. What's being discussed now is a $3 trillion package of investment in America's infrastructure. President Joe Biden began discussing those proposals with Democratic senators on Monday, while a House panel began debating a $300 billion measure to invest in drinking water and broadband across the U.S. The proposals would include about $1 trillion to upgrade America's aging roads, bridges, train lines, and mobile networks. Those are areas which would likely garner bipartisan support. A second element would focus on the U.S. workforce, including expanding paid family leave and free early childhood and community college education. Republicans have criticized those priorities, as well as the administration's focus on green energy. More details are expected in the coming weeks, with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg expected to outline some of those elements in a congressional hearing on Thursday. Let's check in on the day's trading action now. A muted session on Wall Street has seen stocks turn pretty sharply lower in the last hour or so of trade. The Dow Jones down 0.6%, the Nasdaq about 3/4 there. Investors tuning into a joint appearance by Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. They suggested the U.S. economy and labor force would need still more support to recover from the damage of the pandemic. Yellen confirming the administration is considering a hike of the corporate tax rate, in part to help fund the infrastructure bill. She also defended the recent recovery bill as necessary to protect America's most vulnerable households. Take a listen.
1 in 10 homeowners with a mortgage are behind on their payments, and almost 1 in 5 renters are behind on their rent. There are 22 million people who say they don't have enough food to eat. 1 in 10 adults are hungry in America. I looked at data like these and I worried that the COVID economy was going to keep hurting millions of people now and haunt them long after the health emergency was over.
Janet Yellen speaking in congressional testimony earlier. Earlier, we saw a mostly lower close for the major European indices. The Frankfurt DAX just above the flat line at the close there. Otherwise, losses of between 4 and 0.6 of a percentage point in London, Paris, and Milan. AstraZeneca shares, meanwhile, dropped 1.75% in London. Well, EU leaders are to meet later this week amid an escalating row over COVID-19 vaccines. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said today she supports the European Commission's threat to block exports of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which are produced on European soil. EU officials have accused the Anglo-Swedish company of prioritizing its contract with the UK while leaving them short. The EU's trade chief acknowledged supply problems, but rejected accusations that cracking down on exports would amount to vaccine nationalism. Valdis Dombrovskis telling CNBC he was focused on ensuring that pharmaceutical companies honor all their contracts. Well, the EU says AstraZeneca has only delivered about a third of the 90 million vaccine doses it had promised for the first quarter of this year, and that it's unfairly prioritizing its British contract. Factories in both the EU and UK are producing those shots, as Claire Rush explains.
A tug of war over vaccine exports. At the heart of the row is Anglo-Swedish pharma giant AstraZeneca. Most of the doses slated for the UK are produced at 2 sites in England. Those facilities are also contracted to deliver shots to the EU, but have yet to do so. Meanwhile, sites in Belgium and the Netherlands are also producing the AstraZeneca shot. Bottling and packaging takes place in the UK, as well as Germany, Italy, and Spain. The EU wants to make sure those produced on its soil go to its member states instead of being sent elsewhere. Export rows have also hit the Pfizer vaccine. European officials point out that 10 million doses of the jab produced in the EU have been exported to the UK. That shot, developed with German firm BioNTech, is made and bottled in Belgium. A new facility has just come online in Germany. It too has been hit by supply disruptions, but unlike with AstraZeneca, European officials say Pfizer and BioNTech are distributing their doses equally among buyers. The third vaccine being distributed in Europe is made by US-based Moderna. It's produced under license in Switzerland and will also soon be made in France, before being shipped to Spain for bottling. Already approved but not yet rolled out in the EU is the single-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The U.S. pharma giant has announced a partnership allowing it to fill and bottle at a facility in Germany. Meanwhile, several other pharma giants, such as Merck and Sanofi, have agreed to produce the jabs of rival drug makers in an unusual display of cooperation aimed at improving overall deliveries.
Far from the end of the story when it comes to AstraZeneca versus Brussels. We'll be hearing more throughout the week.
Kate Moody with our business update. Thank you so much. And we're